Hello, everybody. This week's episode features fellow podcasters CJ and Rico from PodAskew. They're great guys and fun to talk to, and they color their discussions with language not often heard on this show. So if strong words bother you, we respectfully offer this warning. If it doesn't bother you, then enjoy.
From the Middle and PodAskew are founding members of the Odd Pods Media Network.
Oh, for the love.
Sorry, just clearing my Mountain Dew hole.
I got my phone hole cleaned today.
That's where you keep it?
You're so cerebral and you're so developed and evolved.
From the Middle after dark over here.
Hello, everyone, and thank you for tuning in to episode 126 of From the Middle. We are three middle-class guys living in the middle of America in the middle chapters of our lives with a point of view somewhere in the middle. And if that tells you absolutely nothing about our show, ultimately, this is a comedy called Comedy Podcast.
Cult. Yeah, we're doing that. It's Halloween. We're a cult podcast now.
We are a cult podcast. We are an entertainment and interview style podcast. And ultimately, we just like to have fun and offer a punch to new folks that show up and want to join. So we're
Starting off professional.
Took a whole fun turn. And in this episode, I am very excited. We haven't done a pod mashup episode in a long time. And we are very excited to have our friends Rico and CJ from the PodAskew Podcast. I'll let them do a more in-depth introduction of themselves, but they're a film and TV review podcast. They host an excellent show and fellow odd podcasters. And we're really happy to have you. So welcome, guys.
What's up, middle fuckers? How's that?
Oh, dear God.
Now, I know you guys try to be as clean, but like my greeting for CJ here, CJ, will you bless us with the intro that you always give us?
You guys mind if I do the
Please,
PodAskew intro? Okay.
Please do the
I'm warning you now, well, for Kendall more than anyone, because he's the only one with headphones. It's loud, so you might want to remove the cans, but I will. All right, I wasn't prepared for this. I actually have to. Okay. Welcome everybody to the PodAskew Podcast. I am CJ. With me, as always, is my hetero light mate Rico. What's up, man?
What's up, motherfucker? That's how we do our show. So you are now middle fuckers.
Right. Yeah. And if anyone wasn't
cozy.
sure, if anyone wasn't sure up to that point, that's our explicit warning. So there you go. And explicit warning for the rest of the episode.
Yeah.
So
that is how I'm not used to doing that twice in one day, for the love of God. Because if you can or can't tell, I mean, I know where there's video being shot and this will be eventually for the rest of the world to see. I do that one breath. I don't take another breath until we get to the end of that. So it's, there was the one time, Rico, wasn't the one time you were like, are you all right? Because I kind of got a little woozy off it. Like, I think I hit it so hard. I was like, whoa. So
yeah, I was concerned. I was like, you're a sickly individual as it is. What are you doing to yourself?
And then there was the one time, and this is one of Rico's favorites, my voice cracked about halfway through it, and that did not bode well for me for the rest of that episode.
It was fascinating to see a 40-year-old go through puberty.
I do like that. It's kind of your signature thing, CJ, right? Because we drop the promo in from time to time, and that's your whole promo, right? You start that, and then Rico goes, "Hey, man, this isn't the show. This is the promo." And man, you're coming in hot with that thing. That is full of energy, for sure. And that's really kind of what that's how the whole show was really eventually designed. And I can't even say designed, because if you go back and listen to early PodAskew, I don't know how much you guys have gone back to the old.
Please don't.
Yeah, there's that too. He beat me to it, but the very first couple episodes, you hear us very much trying to figure this out, and it's very much like, I think the very first one, the first official recording, which we called Star Horrors, as an homage to Kevin Smith. And we discussed the then 7 Star Wars films, I believe it was. We talk about it, but I started off and you hear it's very much like, welcome to PodAskew and hi, we're here. And it eventually evolved into what I just did. And I think that just came by nature. Like, it was just one day, okay, let's try something different and energetic. And especially because the music's built that way too. If you listen to the show, the opening music's very high pace, high energy, and the back end's a lot more chill. And it was really by design that way to get people ramped up into listening. And okay, now it's over. Here's the cigarette to finish it off, like the after sex cigarette, like, calm down, or Enrico's the mid-sex cigarette because he smokes a lot, but you get the point. So
I don't do it in the middle. No pun intended. I fucking I I do it at the beginning, I do it at the end. Steph knows.
Yeah. So anyway, but that's it just kind of came. There was no like, okay, this is what we're gonna do. This is how we're gonna open each show. I think I just rattled it off one day, and Rico was like, "That's fucking funny," So
it definitely surprised the hell out of me because it wasn't like we had a discussion about how to do the intro because I'm sure one of your questions is how the hell did we start?
That's the usual question we get. Yeah.
And we'll explain that in depth, but I will say that we went into this without knowing each other. We were pretty much total strangers. And from the very first the pilot episode that we did, which and even our earlier, like maybe the first 5 episodes, they were kind of rough because we kind of had to pretend to be friends. It wasn't that we didn't like each other or we didn't get along. It's just like we had to kind of fake we didn't camaraderie.
Know each other, and that's like so some of Rico's jokes didn't land like they do now.
No.
Like and vice versa. I'm sure. I went
still don't.
Way.
Well, I think that's a perfect segue though, because the energy to just, if I just said you're a TV and film review podcast, like that wouldn't tell anybody about the energy that you guys have and the rapport that you've built over the episodes that you've done. But I think that also speaks to the tip for anybody checking out indie podcasts for the first time. Maybe don't go back to an indie podcast's very first episode. If it's not hosted by Jenna Fisher, like maybe you might want to just start with some of the newer episodes. And if you really love it, you can go back and check out some of the early episodes. Or
at least keep it in mind. If you're going to go back to the beginning, be aware that it's, Rico and I equate it to the pilot of a TV show. The pilot of a TV show is typically not usually very good. It's good enough to get greenlit for broadcast, but it's typically not the best episode of a show. There's a handful that knock it out of the park with a pilot, I'm sure, but it's not all of them, and typically they're not great. We feel the same way about PodAskew. The first handful of episodes, they're not the worst thing that's ever been put out into the world, but we've gotten better.
As an example, like I do this periodically, but I restarted rewatching The Sopranos, and in part to like prep for The Many Saints of Newark. And the very first episode, the pilot, which is just aptly called pilot, James Gandolfini doesn't have his thick New Jersey accent in the first episode. It's very subtle. And the second I was like, who are the fucking gabagool? You're like, what the hell happened to him? He's like, I'm part of business management. And you're just like, huh. Going from the last episode of the first episode is really jarring because it's almost a completely different. He also weighs completely different, but yeah.
But even then, I mean, I find that so fascinating, right? Because if someone starts listening to you guys now because of this episode, you're welcome. But if they do go back, what fascinating context to think about the fact that you two didn't know each other from Adam, and Dylan and I are brothers. So our first episode is very different from you guys' first episode, where, like you said, you're trying to develop a rapport that isn't naturally there yet.
Right.
And that's not a better or worse commentary. That's just what an interesting journey. Because even us, like, we kind of knew where we might go because we share a similar brain. And so that's really fascinating. I hadn't really considered that to that degree.
Go ahead, Rico, please.
No, I'm like, it wasn't the hardest thing, but it took time. And I would argue there were like sacrifices on both ends where it's just like, well, I know CJ's not going to really find this that funny. And the same thing with him. I mean, it's really, the best way I can describe it is it was a blind date. Like it really is kind of like a blind date. It wasn't like we even got hooked up through a friend. It wasn't like, oh, you need a podcast partner? I fucking know this guy. He can help you out. It was never that. It was literally the most online blind dating that you can do without trying to screw each other, literally.
Yeah.
And I even made a joke. I'm like, oh, someday we'll cuddle, which is just my sense of humor, kind of like, let's take all this uncomfortableness and throw it out the window. And his reaction was, ew. And I'm like, oh, shit. This is going to be fun.
Which now, knowing, see, but and it's not that I have a problem with the concept of cuddling with Rico. No, but like I know, because I've had friends that have made that joke to me years, like that I've been friends with for years, and I'm like, absolutely, we're cuddling, you know. And now if Rico makes that joke to me, it's like, who's the bigger spoon? Like that's the joke, you know what I mean? Like that's where it comes to now. So it just was a product of not knowing each other, you know, like I don't know what this dude's like, you know. I mean, he could have been a serial killer for all I know. He probably still is. But whereas now it's, it's very different, you know, that we really do play off each other's sense of humors a lot better than we did, 165 episodes ago, because we just recorded 171 today. So, and I would say it took 6 to 10 before we really kind of hit our stride, and at least in terms of understanding each other.
Right.
Yeah.
So.
Well, you guys know that's definitely the name of this episode now, Cuddling with Rico.
Oh, yeah. Yeah. Either that or who's the bigger spoon. I mean, I think the ones titles, you know.
Then if we're doing who's the bigger spoon, then the subtitle should be like, go fork yourself.
There you go.
Yeah.
So 2 questions. First one is, who is the bigger spoon?
Me.
The second question I have is so it's kind of been teased around a little bit, but we don't know yet how you guys hooked up.
Well, there was some wine and some candles and a little Barry White, but yeah,
I contacted Match.com and said I was not happy with my results.
Yeah, I'm sure you did. Do you want me to take it this time, Rico? Because I think I think it's my turn in the rotation. No, because we've told this story. I've literally lost track of how many times we've had to tell this story, and it's not meant as a negative. It's just funny that we get asked this a lot.
Yeah.
I had a previous podcast called Running the Hamster Wheel that I did for about a year with my then best friend's wife, who we were all real close. It was like a big old family thing. And her and I were notorious for having basically podcast length conversations. We just didn't record them. And I kind of gotten a bug from listening to Kevin Smith so much. Kevin's very big on, hey, just go do it. Just record it. Even if you never put it out, just record it. And, I was sitting at work 8 hours a day, listening to Kevin multiple times a day going, hey, go record your friends. And I finally just said to her, I was like, hey, let's do that show. Let's do a show. Let's try it. And we did. And we did about 25 to 50 episodes. I forget exactly how many it is at this point. And then we had a falling out, unfortunately. And I decided I'm just going to step away from podcasting for a while. And about 18 months or so passed. And I kind of started getting the bug again. I started getting the itch. I wanted to do it, but I didn't. That friend and I were no longer in contact, and everyone else I had brought it to previously were like, right, gonna do that. So it became like, what do I do? And I was on this World of Kevin Smith fan group on Twitter or Facebook, excuse me. and I just threw it out there. I put a post out on my personal Facebook and on that one specifically and said, hey, I'm big Kevin fan. I'm getting the itch again. I had this show. I want to do it again. Send me your ideas. And I got a bunch of different ideas from a bunch of different people, all of them going, I have no equipment. I have no real ideas except that we should do this. Or some people were like, we need at least 3 to 4 people to do this. And I did not want to do more than 2, honestly. I don't have a problem with people that obviously you guys have 3 and it works. And we know other shows that have more than 2 and it works and it's fine. For me, I wanted it to be a one-on-one conversation. That's the one thing I knew for sure. And so a bunch of people hit me up with different ideas. They were all good ideas, and I'm not going to sit here and badmouth anyone because I don't think the ideas were bad. They just weren't what I was looking for. And Rico was very different because everyone else sent me like pitch after like paragraph upon paragraph of pitches. Rico was like, I have a YouTube channel called Rico's Rants, here, take a look. And that was it. That's all I got from him. And I clicked on it and watched about 3 of them. And I was like, oh, yeah, this is the guy I want to talk to. This guy, because here's the thing. And as you can tell, he's strong voiced, strong opinion, but fun. Like that's were the 3 takeaways I had from watching the videos I watched. And it was like, okay, and knowledgeable. I should add that to the mix because he obviously knows what he's talking about. And so it was like, all right, let's do it. So I sent him a DM on Messenger. I guess it's still a DM technically, but I sent him.
It's an IM.
IM, whatever. And I was like, hey, watch your videos, like what I saw. Let's talk. And he's like, great, I'm getting off Facebook. Here's my phone number. And I'm like, oh, okay. So I texted him and we texted back and forth for about 4 or 5 days. And then, and it would have been not as long, honestly, but I got sick in the mix of it. So I didn't want to be talking to him feeling like death. So once I started feeling better, we got on Skype and just talked for like 2 hours, just trying to see if we had good chemistry. Kicked on the recording about 45 minutes into it with no, and I warned him. I said, we're gonna record, but it's not like, this is not an episode. We'll just keep conversing. And if anything's useful here, then we'll, maybe we'll use it one day. And ultimately we did. We had a week where one of us was really sick and we couldn't record. And so we put that content out and we called it Crash and Burn. And that's our pilot episode officially is that. And that's why we, but yeah, that's basically how it rolled down. Am I missing something there, Rico? I think I got it pretty much.
I just need to clarify like a couple things. It's really, no, it's not bad. It's just, I got to tell my side of some shit too. So like, I gave him my number immediately because first and foremost, anybody who steals my identity, I just feel sorry for you. So I was like, he talks about how like it was so kind of surprising for me to just be like, here's my number. But also Facebook IM at the time, even now, drained my phone battery like you wouldn't believe. So I was like, I don't want to have a conversation that just watch the percentage. So I was like, here, you want to talk to me? Here's my phone number. And I will add that the message I gave him was like, here's my YouTube channel, like me or love me, I don't care. Good luck. Was more or less how I got my girlfriend for basically a similar reason. Like I met Stephanie on online dating, and normally I would write a whole monologue and like do a whole thing, but I was in a rush and I was like, I got 10 minutes before I got to go to work, and I really don't want to forget about this, and I don't want to do it at work because then I'll be distracted. So I looked at her profile, and she at the time lived in Southern California, and I said, it's a shame you live 8 hours away because you look like someone I could fall in love with. And I left it at that. And she was like, oh.
Actually, it was a little rougher than that, if I recall. But
no, that's pretty much what it was. I think
didn't she
My initial email was that, and then she basically just proceeded to like say that's very sweet, but no, and here's why.
That's the part I was talking about. It wasn't just.
But she was still impressed enough to write back.
That's true. That's true.
And then moved to me to continue this relationship that I've hornswoggled her into.
So you didn't get the phone number on the first try, but
no,
she was more difficult to get than you were for CJ.
I think she explained to me why it wouldn't work out, and then I explained why it would work out. And then I said, listen, if you want to continue this, here's my number. I think I did give her my number first, and I think that took every ounce of her bravery to text me back. It took at least a week to get her on the phone.
Yeah.
It took almost no time to get CJ on the phone.
Look, you guys had some really nice big spoon, little spoon energy right away, and that's fine. You just own it and you embrace it. And I think it's lovely.
This is going to be a movie someday. Yeah,
I think so.
We actually pitched it to a filmmaker friend of ours, and he and I primarily were like writing out ideas, and I said we should call it Podfellas, because he was like, I want to make like a Goodfellas for podcasters. I'm like, that would never work, but if you're going to make us the main characters, I'm all for it.
I think we even casted ourselves. I forget who we said though.
Yeah, I was like, no one could fire. The only thing I'd be very interested in.
No. We found people to play us, but I forget who we said. That's what I'm saying.
I said we should have played each other. I said, if you really want to see us act, we should play each other.
No, but at one point we were throwing out names, and I'm trying to remember who I think I said like Tom Holland for me, I think is what I said.
And I said, you wish. I said, I will probably get Jon Favreau is really what I said.
I said Rogan. You said he wasn't bad enough.
No, you said Jonah Hill is what you fucking
I did say Jonah Hill. You're right.
I said Rogan. I'm like, let's not be mean. Shit.
No, Rico, I'm getting some Seth Rogen vibes.
Well, if you want to sound like Seth Rogen, you have to make everything sound awesome and amazing.
Yeah, see? Perfect casting right there. I'll figure out CJ later.
All right, fair enough.
I still can't figure out CJ.
Yeah, he's been trying for 3 years, so good luck on you, Dill.
When we started, I used to have hair. Let's put it that way.
No, you didn't.
Our closest relationships can do that to us for sure.
Yeah.
So I got to ask. So you guys have a ton of great energy on the podcast. Sometimes you get the sense that thematically shows are thrown together a little bit faster. I don't get that vibe with you guys at all. So I want to know, what's your selection process? How do you pick multiple episode arcs? How do you pick which movies that you want to review? You guys, it feels like you put together a more thoughtful process for selecting. And so I hate to change it to, kind of a more thoughtful question.
No, it's fine. I laugh because it proves that we fake it well.
Yeah.
Because a lot of them are, what are we doing on Sunday? And it's Wednesday. Like
it's not always that late for the record.
No.
More often than not, we will record an episode on a Sunday, and then afterwards he'll say, so what are we doing next week? And I'm like, shit, you're right. Let's figure some shit out. The first thing I usually do is I go to my video collection. You guys can kind of see I've got a little bit of an obsession. So he and I will be on the phone or on Skype, and I'll just go through franchises, because I think franchises can be a hindrance and also a blessing, because it could be too many movies to talk about to try and fit like a 2-hour, window.
Which is what we aim for, even if we never hit it. But that is what we aim for.
And we have done episodes on single films, and you could just tell we're trying to just bleed it out as much content as much as we can. And you'll notice we will talk a lot about one, like we talked about Last Action Hero recently. And then we talked about like other random crap that had nothing to do with Last Action Hero. And it was just like, well, that's filler, whatever.
It was tied in to some degree. I mean, it was about other action films and things, without picking a franchise or a particular film. It just wherever the conversation spawned. Like he would say something about the way Arnold did this. And I'd be like, well, yeah, I liked it when Stallone did it in this film or whatever.
Which brought on a whole conversation about, oh, is Demolition Man Stallone's last action hero? We're like, yes, it is. And that was 10 seconds of dialogue. Now what the fuck do we talk about?
Right.
It's really kind of, I mean, more often than not, CJ has definitely come to me with suggestions and ideas. And we do have like a couple in the future that we have to like prep for because they're just long films and long franchises.
I'll spoil one. We're doing the Fast and the Furious. We're doing all 9 plus Hobbs and Shaw. So that's a 10 movie arc that we're going to be doing. But
we've also done the MCU. So I'm like, we've done
one
20. Yeah.
Yeah, we did.
Well, that's pretty good then. And to be fair to you guys, I think you're underselling your preparation a little bit. We all have day jobs. The fact that you're preparing even 4 days ahead of time is pretty darn good. Because you could both just go, I don't know, what have you watched recently on Disney Plus? Let's just talk about that tomorrow.
Yeah, I think. And first off, thank you for that compliment. But I think, and Rico, I think I can speak for you here, but by all means, fill in the gaps if I'm wrong. But like, I think we would both feel really uncomfortable if it was that, like that broad or that just, okay, what were you watch? You know what I mean? Like we need some kind of base to work from, even if it's small, like The Last Action Hero, or something more in depth, like a Fast and the Furious or MCU or Star Wars or whatever. We need some kind of base to function from. We don't do very well completely off the cuff. We can take the base and run it anywhere, but we always have that base to kind of anchor us down. And without that, I think we struggle, because we've seen that with our Get Vocals, the streams we do on, sometimes we've cut it back, but it used to be every Friday on Friday nights from 8 to 10, we would do a live stream with video, and we would sometimes go into those and be like, all right, we're here with no topic. What do you all want to talk about? Because there's a chat room and we can interact with the audience. And sometimes we'd get crickets from the audience, and then it's like, okay, so now what do we do for 2 hours? And you can see us like really struggling to put content together on the fly.
And then I look at the screen, I go, CJ, want to cuddle? And it just makes everything even more awkward.
That's true. Yeah. So we definitely need a base to function from, whether it's, one movie or one title or one actor or whatever. As we were kind of talking about pre-show, like the one we just recorded was a mini tribute to Tommy Lee Jones, because we focused on his chase films, but like we used that as a base, and we definitely had 4 movies that we watched and we discussed those, but it also allowed us to like spin off into other discussions related to that base. And I think that's important to the way that we do our preparations, like you were asking about, Dylan. So
yeah, well, and that's, I think that's a great recap, because that's some of what I've picked up. And we're not a TV and film review show per se, but we do, we'll talk about an MCU movie or a Star Wars movie. And for me, I want to have a lot of those details fresh in my mind going into that discussion, versus trying to have a deeper discussion about something that I saw 3 weeks ago. Right. And so, yeah, I think that you alluded to that perfectly. I think that's great. This seems like a really great time to hear from one of our friends in the Odd Pods Media Network. But before that, I think Corey has a quick message to share.
Yeah. So if you guys have listened for a while, you remember early on, as we were trying to figure out how sponsorships work and partnering with different companies that we believed in their products, Backroom Coffee Roasters was really generous and worked with us. And we still love their product. We had a great relationship with them. Timing just what it was, we decided to part ways momentarily. So I got a text last week from the owner, Trent, and he informed me that he was in a really bad motorcycle accident. He has a really awesome KTM Super Duke and hit a deer going 80 miles an hour and had spent 6 days in the hospital and was in really bad shape. So I went over and visited him. He's at home now. He's still recovering. And I said, hey, man, what can we do? And he said, just have people buy my coffee. He is a family man who supports his wife and 2 kids with 2 small businesses. And if you know anything about running small business, that's an up and down roller coaster type thing. So I just thought it's the least we could do to support Trent and his small businesses. So go to backroomcoffeeroasters.com, fill your cart with a ton of coffee. I think they're going to have something really special that I can't officially announce just yet before the holidays. So just buy coffee. It goes to pay for Trent's medical bills, and you'll be glad you did, because the quality of their product is amazing. That's Backroom Coffee Roasters, at Backroom Coffee, everywhere on social media. And I just wanted to make sure that I did that this week. So thanks, guys. Let's hear from one of our friends in the Odd Pods Media Network.
Hey man, it's me, Kevin Smith. 2 things I know in this world: black and white convenience store movies and podcasting, man. So when I give you a podcast suggestion, people tend to listen. I'm about to drop some on you right now. Check out a great variety of podcasts on the Odd Pods Media Network, man. I'm talking shows Super Media Brothers, Married with Television, The 500 Section Lounge, From the Middle Podcast, PodAskew, BFYTW, and Infectious Groove, all proud members of the Odd Pods Media Network. They make me so happy, spittle flies out of my mouth when I talk about them, man. I love anybody that creates a podcast network, and the good folks at Odd Pods have done exactly that. Go listen to all the podcasts on Odd Pods Media Network right now and tell them Silent Bob sent you. And when they say, wait, I thought he doesn't talk, and you're like, yeah, well, he talks 1 line per movie. And then go like, what? And the 1 line in a movie told you to go listen to Odd Pods Media Network? And then be like, look, it was just a sign-off catchphrase. Get off my and then you'll have made a new friend.
Hi, I'm Shannon.
I'm Jamie.
We're Married with Television, marriedwithtv.com. We are a couple of Hollywood normies on the outskirts of the film and TV industry, and we talk about our favorite TV shows, music, and movies, and sometimes they talk back to us.
Sometimes they do.
Our podcast is Married with Television, 1 word, on Stitcher, Spotify, iTunes, and SoundCloud.
Possibly Amazon soon. And we are a proud member of the Odd Pods Media Network.
Married with TV.
MarriedWithTV.com.
And we're back. Man, I love that podcast. Don't you guys?
So good.
Man, one of my favorites.
I love it.
On the off chance that it's ours, thank you.
You're getting your promo, all 2 hours of it. So have you guys? I'm so interested to know if you guys have ever actually met in person.
Rico, you want to handle this one since I did the origin?
So for the longest time, no. And we almost wanted to keep it that way, just to have that air of mystery because we've been asked numerous times about our origin, and we have explained we weren't friends. We met on the internet. It's not that creepy. We promise. And then we would tell them like, well, he lives on one coast, I live on the other, and we've never met. And people were just floored with that like, you guys have such a good dynamic and you've never been in the same room. And I kept joking. I'm like, I only want to meet this guy for 2 possibilities. One, like we're meeting in the room and like Kevin Smith is like interviewing us or we're interviewing him. Like that would be the de facto automatic. We should meet that way. The other way would be we both go to like a wedding or even better, a funeral. And we didn't know that the person who is either married or is dead was also like we were friends with. And we both happened to go to this place and we're like, oh, what are you doing here? It's like, what? How did you know Jimmy? And it's like, dude, Jimmy's my uncle. What the hell? Like, what are you like? That would have made it especially better. But no, he came out and visited me for my birthday. So
yeah, I killed the dynamic, but it was for a good cause, I think, this year, and it worked. But I mean, like, to Rico's point, I mean, we've been doing this for it's basically November at this point, so it's 3.5 years, and I up until June 27th or 28th of this year, we'd never been. This is the closest we came to being in the same room with each other.
Yeah.
But yeah, it was a good. Rico, I don't know if you want me to talk about what happened earlier or late last year or not, but
let me do it. My mother died in December of this past year, so it ultimately, like, 2021 has not been fun, but like whenever like everyone's like complaining about 2020, I'm like, oh, let me tell you about 2020. And it was so close. Like, she died the day after Christmas Day. So she died on the 26th. Which I knew would have really pissed her off if she knew that she was going to die before 2021, because she complained about 2020 more than anybody. And so she died very unexpectedly. She was not old. She was not sick. She didn't have COVID. It was nothing like that. And she was 59 and died of a aneurysm. And the real like thing that rocked me to my core was I've been mentally prepping for my father's death forever, because my father is 83. And is constantly putting himself in situations where he messes up his shoulder or messes up his leg. And, you know, my dad's a tough old dago. Like, he's a skinny guinea with a lot of anger, and he's from Massachusetts. And my mom was just full of life and was a bartender and a waitress, and, you know, was always the one who's trying to find the positive of a situation. She'll talk shit, but she'll be positive about it. She's like, I am positive that you are an asshole. Like, it's really like, which you kind of need that dynamic from a bartender, you know?
Yeah.
And she was perfect at that. So it was kind of a big blow. It was a very big blow. And I had just moved, ironically enough, back to my father's house. One of his tenants in his building moved out. So Steph and I moved in, also to keep an eye on my 83-year-old dad. And we were literally like mid-move October, we kind of walked in, and then November we were still unpacking. December we were still unpacking, and mom was coming over and bringing us still stuff from her house, because we were all locked in during quarantine at her house. And it's a really kind of a weird thing to say. I'm grateful I was locked during quarantine with my mother, because that was the most I had to deal with her on a constant basis. And she hated it. She not hate talking to me, but she hated being quarantined. So in a roundabout way, it's like, I'm kind of grateful that I had to be shut in with my mother, because that's kind of the last time I was able to spend time. I didn't know it was my last chance to be with her. I would have been a whole lot fucking nicer to her. But so then we moved in here to keep an eye on my dad, and then she died like the day after Christmas. And it was honestly, I cannot fathom that it's been almost a year. Like I've been recording with CJ almost. I took like 1 week off or 2 weeks off. It was 2 weeks off, and that was it. And I just said I need to get back to normalcy. And it was, I was not doing good. It was a hard thing to go through. And I don't wish it upon anybody.
And my point for bringing it up, so not to bring the mood of the show down, but the point of bringing it up was that, like, that, and then the fact that Rico just turned 30 this year. Stephanie, his girlfriend that he mentioned earlier, reached out to me and was like, I really want to do something special for Rico. I want to get him a PS5, because he never got he's a gamer like I am, and he never got the 4. The last one he had up until recently was a PS3. So, you know, Steph's like, I want to really get him this and make his birthday special. Can you? And she knows I'm a huge gamer, so she knew that I could help her at least try to track one of these things down. Even if I didn't help her pay for it, I could at least say, hey, Steph, go buy this thing. Like, Harry, click on the thing, you know, like, go do it.
Is this a service that you still offer, or?
I can, yeah. I mean, I get emails from GameStop because I'm a pro member. So yeah, that's the best. Honestly, that's my best suggestion at this point.
CJ's middle name is actually pronounced Sony. So
yeah, that's it. Yeah. So but yeah, so I was helping her with that, and then Rico is a big collector of lightsabers. He's a huge Star Wars,
yeah,
and he's got like what 6 or 7 of them right now.
No, I got 4.
I thought you had more than that. Anyway,
nope.
And so I was gonna get him another one, like a really nice one. Like I've been following this company called Saber Zone, and I'm not plugging anything, but they just seem to be a decent company, and I've been keeping tabs on it. And Steph we finally tracked down this PS5 for Rico, and I'm talking to Steph about it after we finally get it, and she gets it ordered and whatever. And I jokingly said something to the effect of, it would be kind of cool if we could come out there and surprise him when he's opening the thing, be there. And she's like, yeah, that'd be great, wouldn't it? And I said, yeah, it'd be awesome, but I doubt I can afford it, And then for shits and giggles, I looked it up on Southwest, and it was $10 more expensive than the lightsaber I was going to buy. And I'm like, well, shit, if it's, like $10 more to go and spend 10 days hanging out with them, that seems a little more special to him than buying a lightsaber. I don't know if Rico agrees at this point.
In retrospect, I probably would have wanted the lightsaber, to be perfectly honest. Like, it depends on what kind. If you were going to give me like here's Jar Jar's lightsaber, like,
oh no, it was Kylo. It was a Kylo Ren one.
Oh shit! You fucked me on that one. I'm sorry.
Yeah, I did. But so ultimately I said this, I reached back out to Steph and I was like, look, I can still get him the lightsaber and I'm sure he'll love it, but for $10 more, I can actually come out there. Do you think it would be a good idea? And she didn't even hesitate. I got big capital letters in return going like, buy the ticket. Like it was immediately, but and then we did have further conversation before I actually bought it about like, well, there's that dynamic Rico jokes about the funeral, and do we meet, are we killing the dynamic of the show and this, that, and the third? And she said, with all respect, I love you guys and I love the show, but who cares?
I don't think you even told me that portion.
I mean, I don't think it was that blunt, but it was basically, that was the vibe of it. It's like, who really cares about the vibe? This is more about, let's do something nice for Rico and get you guys finally in the same room. So I booked the ticket and off we did it. Now here's the fun part. Not that the rest of it wasn't fun, but the funnest part about it is this all happened in early April. His birthday is not till June 29th.
27th.
Or 27th. Yeah, I'm sorry. But so for
my hetero life mate, right, guys?
Oh, shut up. So for 2 months, I'm talking to him multiple times a week, knowing that I'm flying to Oakland. He did not know. We did not tell him I was coming. I showed up on his doorstep 2 days before his birthday. And
dressed
was like
a lightsaber?
No, that would have been hard to get through TSA, but otherwise maybe. But yeah, and so we'd have these conversations like, and also I knew he was getting a PS5, so I would make comments about, well, when you get a PlayStation, we'll play this game together. He goes, dude, I'm never getting one of them things. It's too expensive. I'll never get my hands on one. Knowing, here's the irony. It was 10 feet to his left in a brown box. He didn't know it was there because Steph got it shipped to the house and intercepted the package.
You know how annoyed I am to realize that I spent way too much money buying games on her Xbox One when I could have just looked in the closet.
We honestly kept trying to stop him and it didn't.
You fuckers didn't stop shit.
No. I multiple times said that's much better on PlayStation. You should wait till you get a PlayStation. You were like, I'm never getting one of them things. I'll never be able to afford it. And then
all right, well, every time I buy a game, I always say, hey, Steph, should I get this? And she was never like, no, don't get it. Save your money. She never did that shit.
Because she was afraid you'd figure it out. I knew you weren't that smart. So
this is a story about how nice you are to me?
No.
Okay.
It's a story about how nice Stephanie is to you, and I got roped into it.
That's my hetero life.
I have to say though.
Sorry. We're taking over. We do that. So
no, that's great. That ended up being some really funny episodes where you're talking about, your trip and your time there. I don't know if it's as good as a collection of 5 lightsabers. Awesome. But it certainly funny. certainly funny episodes. I have to ask, because you guys have done so many reviews. Can I do some rapid fire questions with both of you?
Please.
Would that be fun?
Sure.
All right,
Absolutely.
cool. So just because people might want to know, I think we did this with the Super Media Bros when we had them on, wanting to know what are some of the best or some of the worst.
Which, by the way, Dale, before you get into your questions, I've heard that one, and I mean I've heard a couple of the episodes, but that one in particular, actually, I will share this with you because you will appreciate this. That's the episode I listened to while I was waiting at the airport after TSA to go visit Rico. Like that's the episode I heard was your mashup with Super Media Brothers. So
which was a ton of fun, and who knew that would kick off us joining for their Cult Cinema Showdown series, because I mentioned a one-off story as a kid that I watched, saw this terrible movie anyways. All right, so you can throw out your best, the first answers that come to mind, the best answers of all of the stuff that you've reviewed. What are some of the best of that you've watched that were kind of unexpected? Like if you say Star Wars Episode 4, like of course that's that's going to be good.
Yeah.
What are a couple of the best movies that you've reviewed that you were kind of surprised by?
Wow. Rico, you want to go first? Because I need a minute.
I'm thinking well, I'll give you a real answer, then I'll give you another like separate answer. One of the ones that I really enjoyed reviewing with CJ was we did a 2-part Harry Potter thing.
Oh,
and I've been pushing for that for a while, and honestly it was really just for me to talk about how much I have a problem with the Harry Potter movies, but also how much like in the book they should have done this and they did this in the book, but they didn't do this in the fucking movie.
Which actually gave us another running joke that we have now called In the Book.
Yeah, in the book. Yeah. Whenever there's like, well, there's a book adaptation, but in the book they actually said this. So it was fun because I enjoy the Harry Potter franchise. I don't enjoy the author, but I enjoy the franchise. The other answer is one of the earliest episodes where the first episode we got serious, where it wasn't us talking about Star Wars or talking about the Marvel cinematic stuff or even the DCEU, was we talked about Roseanne Barr when Roseanne Barr blamed her racism on Ambien.
Ambien.
And it was the first time we actually just shelved the idea of like, well, let's talk about a movie franchise or a movie or a show. Let's get serious. Let's talk about what happened to fucking Roseanne. And we called it Lowering the Bar. And that's one of my favorite early episodes, because it was the first time that we went out of our comfort zone and we stopped being up and happy and angry and movie reviewers.
Dylan, if I'm understanding your question correctly, you're more curious about like a movie we watched to do the review, though, right? Am I understanding that?
You can answer it either way. I'm not that picky.
Well, no, I get that, but so just to try to answer that question first, it's a more recent episode we did. We did a movie an episode on gambling movies, and we did 21. Croupier, Molly's Game, and Rounders were the 4 movies that we looked at for that. And Rounders and 21 I've seen ad nauseum because I love both those films, but the other 2 I had never seen. And I gotta tell you, like, Rico recommended Croupier, and I was like, do you have a cough? Like, what the only croup I know is like, I'm like, what are you talking about? And he's like, no, just it's Clive Owen, just watch it. And I'm like, all right, fine. And I gotta tell you, it was way better than I expected, and it was way better than even I don't want to say trailer because I didn't watch the trailer. I'm not big on trailers. I try to avoid them. I like going into movies surprised typically, so I try to avoid. Doesn't mean I never watch, but I try to avoid. And so, but there was like a description or something, and I remember reading it, going, okay, well, I mean, it's home. We call watching movies at this point homework if we're doing it for the show. So I was like, I got to do my homework whether I want to or not. And I watched it, and I was really pleasantly surprised with how how good it was for a non-indie film. It really is really entertaining. If you've never seen it, I actually will back Rico up and recommend it. It's an interesting watch.
I think we both need to understand that rapid fire is not part of our lexicon whatsoever.
We can try to. I can be more rapid fire, but yeah.
We both were just like, well, let me explain for about 10 minutes.
Yeah. All right.
I have three answers. Let me break this down.
Yeah, it's really we are honestly someone like there are times where I'll listen to our episodes and I'm just like, Jesus Christ, we didn't even answer the question. Yeah. Like we spoke for 40 minutes and we didn't even get to the point we were trying to fucking make.
Okay. All right. So next question, Dylan.
Okay. Just the inverse. So movies, some of the one or two of the worst ones that you had to watch.
Halloween, without question. Halloween 1978. I hated it.
Wow.
Dumbest thing I'd ever seen in my life.
Strong.
Nico?
That we reviewed. Most of the time, I kind of tend to pick the topic. So I'm anticipating it'll probably be the Fast and the Furious in the future.
Probably. I also want him to watch Scott Pilgrim. I think he's going to hate that. Honestly,
that one I probably will enjoy a little bit more because I've seen some of the Fast and the Furious movies. I'm just not a gearhead. I'm just not a car guy in 80. Like I could tell the difference between like a Toyota and like a Ferrari, but that's really it. If you're like, oh, is that a Toyota or a Honda? I'm like, it's a car. Does it have four wheels and it deliver me pizza? That's all I give a shit about.
Yeah. For anyone who listens to our show, they know that that's me of the three of us. So totally get it.
Thank you. Like
we're at that time of year. Best holiday pick. What's the best holiday movie that you've reviewed that's been your favorite?
Die Hard.
Batman Returns.
Yeah.
There's always this, I don't know if Planes, Trains, and Automobiles is, I think it's a Thanksgiving movie, but now they slap a Christmas label on it to try to help sell it in December. That's always going to be up there in my list, outside of some of the normal holiday favorites, as a fantastic choice.
Planes, Trains, and Automobiles is an amazing choice for Thanksgiving, not for Christmas.
And I've never seen it, actually. So you
gotta check that out. That's worth watching. That's not homework. That's just worth watching.
No, yeah.
All right, here's another one. What have been your favorite themed arcs? So you've mentioned Harry Potter. If you want to pick a different one, you can, but not an individual film, but an arc of films or multiples of a TV show.
No, like how you get gambling, for example. Like you do.
We've done a lot of episodes, guys. You're going to have to bear with me.
I really enjoyed our MCU discussion. It's an early episode. It's like our second episode, and we've done continuations of that as the movies after those came out. But
I'll tell you what I liked more the MCU one, but it's still MCU related. We did an episode where because all the MCU films are PG-13.
Yeah.
We were pitched by this guy Henry, who he said, they're all PG-13 movies. Can you put an F-bomb in every single one?
Because PG-13 is allowed up to 2 F-bombs per film. So
depending on the context, but yeah.
And so the thing was pitched to us up through, I think, Infinity War at that point, because I don't think Endgame had come out yet.
Right. No, Endgame had come out.
Had it? Okay, I don't remember.
Yeah.
You could be right. I'm not going to argue that. Was to throw at least 1, if not 2 F-bombs in every MCU film. And we spent 3 hours F-bombing the hell out of the MCU.
Like taking lines, being like, I am fucking Iron Man. Like stuff like that. Or I fucking am Iron Man.
Yeah. It was and we called it MCFU.
Yeah,
that was the name of the episode. So
that's good.
I only bring it up just because I think it's one of our more brilliant titles. I think that we've had. Some of them are, and that's not. Rico picks a lot of titles, but some of mine have been terrible too. So it's
There has been some rough titles from time to time, but you can kind of tell it's like we try. Our problem is with writing titles is that we want to be subtle but have you get it. We also don't want to be too on the nose. So for example, when we did Back to the Future, we obviously the one that everyone would have chosen is Great Scott.
That is what we called it.
No, we called it Whoa, This Is Heavy. See, that's my point.
Oh, that's right. Yeah.
We did a too subtle of a thing, and people are like, I don't get it. And I'm like, but when we came up with it, we thought it was fucking smart as hell. And then we're like, now he doesn't remember what the hell the title is. So
I thought that was a two-parter for some reason. Maybe I'm wrong. I might be getting it confused with a different episode. Like you recorded a lot. So you know what? I'm getting confused with I think the indie one was 2, wasn't it?
Indiana Jones was 2-part.
Yeah. I got one more rapid fire for you. Rapid fire. Any movies or actors you just won't review or you just don't want to review?
It's not a name. It's anyone like I'm gonna pick one name, but it's anyone of this ilk. So anyone like Kevin Spacey who's been involved in some kind of like harassment or assault or like we just don't have time for that. And I don't. What I mean by don't have time is like we don't want to give them any more publicity than they already gotten and don't feel like they earned any more, and certainly none from us. Not that we're like high and mighty in the sense that like everybody knows who the hell we are. We have a handful of listeners, but the point is that for anyone to get to do the kind of work that gets a review, I feel like is a level of respect, and these people don't deserve our respect. And at least that's my perspective. I don't want to speak for Rico, but I think he shares my perspective. But like, I know Rico agrees with me that these people aren't good people, but I don't want to speak to the why. The why for me is they don't deserve my respect, and therefore I don't want to give them the time to deep dive their films. So, which is why we struggle so hard with Miramax, because Harvey Weinstein's all over Miramax is all over the place, and if we cut out Miramax's entire library, that cuts us down by like a third, so we have to be cautious with that one. But as a whole, and every time we do Miramax, we're typically like, fuck Harvey Weinstein and then move on with our review. Right. So,
yeah.
But
I actually would agree. Like, I honestly, like if someone pitched to us, like, let's say, for example, like if Harvey Weinstein said, hey guys, I like your show, can you interview me? And we'd be like, go fuck yourself.
Yeah. Or we would spend the whole time being, okay, so why did you rape this person? And why did you attack that person? And why did you blackball this person? Like we would not pull any punches. It wouldn't be, like, hey, Harvey, you're a great producer. No, it would be, you're a piece of crap. And here's the 100 reasons why. You want to answer?
Right.
Like, so, because Rico and I believe in second chances to a degree. Like someone like RDJ who struggled with substances and didn't, really harm anybody but himself. There was some, I think it was like a car accident. Someone got hurt, and that's not good. We're not saying that's okay, but he wasn't intentionally out to hurt that person either. Right. It was a product of the bigger problem. If we're going to discuss like Iron Man or his other films, he's trying to get his life back in order, or has gotten his life back in order, so we're not that elitist. There's a level there. Right. And a Kevin Spacey, and even Kevin Spacey for me is right at that line, because like, he's such a good actor, but he's such a terrible human being that it's really hard to like, how do you, like, we'll never discuss something like Jack, and it sucks because we both love Robin Williams, but because Bill Cosby's the primary doctor, it's like, nope, we just can't, because that guy, forget him, and by discussing something like Jack in a review format, we're giving him too much time that we don't think he deserves.
Yeah.
I think I nailed that, Rico. Yeah.
That's fair. And honestly, it's something that I hadn't even thought of. Like, considering your show and, you know, wanting to ask some questions and chat with you guys. I appreciate that angle because that's certainly something that we hadn't, you know, discussed behind the scenes. Well, Kendall and Corey, you've been very kind to let me kind of steer the ship on this one. I have one more kind of overall question, but is there anything else you guys want to jump in with, you know, as we're winding down?
I have one maybe to save for the end, and CJ, you can just be thinking about it while Dylan asks his next question. But it probably isn't common knowledge to our listeners that you're kind of the brainchild behind Odd Pods Media Network. And so, like, if you have like a Spark Notes version of like what the dream was there and sort of where you would like to take this thing, I'd love to just hear a little bit about that.
Yeah. Odd Pods was the long and short of it is Rico and I were on a different network for a while, and they tried to get us to do something we didn't agree with for the net, and it was big. It was a non-compete clause if we ever walked away, and they were talking about a year-long non-compete. So if we walked away, we weren't allowed to sign with another network for a year. And this was not Spotify. This was not, you know, the Mark Maron network or Joe Rogan or Kevin Smith. Like this is not some major network that really deserved a year non-compete, you know. And so Rico and I were like, no, this is, and then we even tried to work with them. I'm not going to get into the details on what we did, but we tried to work with them, and then they basically showed us their cards, and it was like, okay, this is not where we want to be anymore. Yeah, Rick.
I'd like to point out they also promised us a lot of things that they were going to deliver to us,
right?
And they never did once. So they want us to re-sign another contract, which is basically means, hey, if we don't like, and they said in the contract, we will drop you if we ever feel like it, and you will never see it coming, but then you're not allowed to sign with anybody for a year.
Cool. That's real nice.
Yeah, but they were also not giving us anything that they had promised initially. So it was just, we both looked at it as a way of, we were going to be controlled and we were going to have no say, and we weren't even getting the perks after we initially had signed with them. So we both were said, let's get out of this. This is awful.
And we did, and they actually got one last jab at us because they offered free hosting. And when we went to leave and set up our own hosting, I don't know. I honestly, to this day, don't know if it was a technical issue that I did wrong or something they did, but they flipped the switch and we lost all our content.
Ugh.
Every episode was gone. Now, I have all of them saved on an external hard drive, so it's not like they were gone. It was simply, but I literally sat here for 4 hours manually re-uploading 120 some odd episodes, including descriptions, because all the descriptions went with the thing that they shut off. So I had to manually type in all the descriptions again for 120 some odd episodes or whatever it was at the time. And so, yeah, that was a little, you know, frustrating. And I, to this day, honestly don't know if I messed something up or they screwed us over. But that aside, that happened too. And I'm sitting around, and Rico had kicked the idea a while back of us doing our own thing. And it was like, yeah, let's do that. And then I started spawning out different ideas in my brain. And the one thing that I didn't like about the network that we were on previously was there was one guy calling all the shots, and he wanted zero input from the shows. Zero. Like he did not care. It was like he would tell you he cared and then completely ignore anything you said to him. That was basically how it went. So I was like, we need to do it differently. And so that's when I came up with that collective idea that we operate off of with the 7 shows, the 7 founding shows, running things as a collective group, as opposed to one, you know, big muckety muck sitting at the head of the table saying, you know, this is how we do things.
And I pitched the name.
He did. The way the names came is that everyone brought names to the table and it was a vote, but the name that we ended up with, was Rico's idea 100%. I'm not taking that away from him. But yeah.
Well, I didn't want to make you relive a negative story, but I like how you
No.
But I actually like it because you spun that experience into here's what we don't want to be, and we want to put the creativity and the teamwork and the let's be a part of something cool and not put a bunch of restrictions and guidelines and barriers on it. So I like how you spun that into a really hopeful, network of shows. And there's just we are a ragtag group of gypsies. It's
that
like
we are.
Odd Pods is like this. You couldn't have more differing shows, and I kind of love that about it.
And I think that's why. I know we don't want to pull behind the curtain too much, Dylan, but you and I are on the council that meets every month. And I think that's why the name that got chosen is exactly what Corey just said about what this, we are so this ragtag, none of it. We're kind of like Super Media Brothers, but not. And we're kind of like Married with Television, meaning PodAskew, but we're not. And you guys are kind of like 500 section, but not. You know what I mean? There's just enough of that not that makes it so, to your point, Corey, about being so odd that the name fits, Cool. And then when you have a show called Because Fuck You, That's Why, just randomly hanging out there, that's, But some of the nicest guys on the planet. I don't know if you guys have had a chance to talk with Smoke and Aaron and Augie yet, but some of the nicest guys on the planet, really. Yeah. So anyway, that's cool. I guess that's the short version.
Yeah.
Cool.
It feels like so many like movies or action movies or apocalyptic movies where you've got like the badass like biker guy and then like this chick, and then you've got like the preacher, and they like all find each other and survive. That's who we are.
Didn't we interview a guy about a movie like that, Rico, that still hasn't come out?
No comment.
Yeah, exactly.
CJ, he actually contacted us again today.
I saw. Yeah. It's funny you bring it up though, because I remember pitching you three on this thing because like the other shows involved, BFYTW. I'm not gonna do the whole name on you guys again, but I had to say it at once. BFYTW, Super Media Bros, Married with TV, and 500 section. I knew going in, like I knew those four shows. I know those guys. I knew those guys. And for a brief period, Super Media Brothers was out of the running because they were dealing with some personal issues. It wasn't even that they weren't interested. They were just dealing with some personal stuff and said, look, we can't do this right now, but we'd like to, which is, why they ultimately end up being a part of it. But the one thing that I said was that we need at least 5. There was a number I was fixated on, that we had to have at least 5, and it had nothing to do with Odd. Like Odd Pods wasn't even a thing yet. The name wasn't even a thought process. It was more about the execution of of making the company function, that you needed 5. And I was trying to figure out what we're going to do for a 5th, since Super Media Brothers were out. And I actually was talking to Sam over at 500, and he pitched you guys. He's like, I know these guys. They did this fun show. You should check it out. And I did. And much to like, this is the reason I bring all this up, is because it's a much a product of spending time with Rico. I've absorbed some of his moxie, if you will. And Corey, I blindly was just like, hey, you don't know me from a hole in the ground, but I got this idea and I think you're going to love it. I like your show. Let's talk, and to my surprise, you were like, great, 2 hours work for you. I'm like, oh, well, yeah. Okay. Cause I honestly expected not necessarily just buzz off, but I was expecting, okay, well, that sounds interesting. Let me talk to the guys. I'll get back to you in a few days. I didn't expect, hey, it's 11:30 work for you, so. All right. So I had to quickly like get my pitch, because I never had to pitch it before. The other 3 were like, yeah, we're in. Like that I had to pitch it, but it was an easy pitch. It was like, hey, you guys want to start a network? Here's my idea. great. All right, we're in. Like, you guys were the first group I had to like pitch the idea of this non-existent company to. And, you know, I said, we set up the meeting. I pitched it to you guys and we left. I left the meeting and I'm like, okay, well, we'll see how good I am at selling this thing, because that was the first time I had to do it. And then I think it was like the next day you hit me back and you were like, yeah, we're in. So that was awesome. And I was great. I was, you know, it was nerve-wracking, and I'll tell you, and Kendall, I don't mean to pick on you, but I know what you do as a preacher and a reverend and all that, and I'm like, yes, I've got a show called BFYTW, you know, full name excluded right now, and I've got one of the and if you'll pardon me for a minute, I've got a co-host who's fluent in motherfucker as a second language. So, you know, like how am I going to pitch this to these guys and make it okay? You know, and
you don't know enough about church leaders, man.
No, I don't. That's fair.
No, but I do, which is why I'm like, he's fine.
Exactly. Yeah.
Like, look, first and foremost, this is like history in the making. We got a preacher and atheist having time and joking around.
Yeah,
and like it I think it's because, like, I know a lot about religion where I'm like, he's gonna be fine. Like, from the middle is you know, they're grown people. Like they you know, they may want to try and tone their language down for a specific reason, or they're gonna talk about maybe some serious stuff, but they're gonna try and do it in a jokey way. But these are grown people. Right. Like, it's like that misconception of like trying to I'm like trying not to imagine that women go to the bathroom. It's like, well, then you're just stupid if you think women don't go to the bathroom. Like, I'm sorry.
I get it, but I also understood there was a you know, a level of potential issue, and I wasn't sure how it was going to fly. Again, not knowing you guys, you know what I mean? Yeah, really knowing you at all, you know. It would be like trying to pitch to Smoke. You can't curse at all ever on the network. That would be like the converse to that. That's how you know.
It would be like trying to pitch to Smoke. He can't smoke.
Yeah, that too. Yeah. So,
or me.
Well, different smokes, but sure.
Different smokes. Yeah.
Anyway, someone else had a question, please.
Well, I know. I was just going to say, I think you did a great job actually answering the question, and part of what I was going to ask, you ended up answering, and you know, my question was the introduction of us to Odd Pods and Odd Pods to us, and but ultimately what that means to a listener, because like they don't care about, you know, the network meetings and the logistics and what the hosting sites and all that, right? Like any listener who's listening to this right now could care less. But I think collectively finding really good, interesting shows, expanding the network with shows that we feel are high quality, so that when we recommend them, we feel comfortable saying, if this is your thing, you're gonna like. If this is your theme of podcast, it's a good show. Well, and trying to create better quality production value and better quality content, and ultimately that's what we're trying to bring to the table, right? So
right. And if I could just piggyback off that for a second, Dylan, is like one of the things with the previous network we were a part of was that, like, one of the reasons why it hasn't failed in that it still exists, but it lost a lot of its members, including obviously us. And full disclosure, and I know I'm not speaking out of turn, Super Media Brothers. That's how I got to know those guys. We were on that network together, and Richie and I have shared our horror stories of dealing with the owner, because we both have, and I'll spare those, but they do exist, and we have fun discussing them sometimes. But in any event, the point I was going to say, though, is at one point that network just started accepting anyone that applied. If anyone just reached out, he claimed that he listened, but he didn't. It was obvious. He was just accepting anyone that said, hey, can I be a part of your network? And he was like, yep. And the reason I know that is because he went from 10 to 50 shows in 15 days. There's no way he does that and listens to every one of those. I'm sorry. There's no way, you know. And we were too green, if you will, to know what that was like at the time. Like if we knew what we know now, we would have done our due diligence to find that out before we applied.
Oh, he charmed the shit out of us for sure.
He absolutely did. Yeah. I mean,
he was like, "Oh, you guys," he's like, "I love Kevin Smith, and you guys, I love that episode you did where Star Wars, yeah, you did Star Wars, right?" And
yeah, and he also talked about dumping a whole bunch of money into the show, helping with promotion and all this stuff, and we never saw any of it. And that's what it is. That's not the point. The point, though, is that like he expanded very quickly, very fast. It's like one of the things that I think that we do right here with Odd Pods is, and again, Dylan, you're right. The audience doesn't care about all the minutia, so I'm trying to avoid that, but. Like we take the time to listen to the shows and like really listen. Like I think every show that's been pitched has had multiple, at least 3 to 5 episodes listened to by people involved, by one of us. And then we pitch that show, and it's not just, hey, here's a name. Like a lot of times we come with the pitch, like this is the name of the show. This is why we think it fits in. And then that doesn't just immediately get a yes or no vote. Then everyone else goes and listens to the damn show and says, okay, I agree with whoever pitched it, or I disagree with whoever pitched it for these reasons. And so the fact that, to your point, Dylan, about the quality, we are really, it's not a one person perspective. It's not just Dylan likes it or I like it or Russ likes it or whoever. It's multiple people getting involved and putting that process together. And I think that's what brings the quality that Dylan referenced to the network.
One thing that actually made me feel good was one of the shows that I really like. I won't say which one now, but one that I really like that is not in the network. I reached out to them to say, when we kind of had our period, we were saying anyone that's interested, let us know. I reached out from the middle page and said, hey, I'd love it if you guys would try to, join the network or throw your name in the hat or whatever. And they weren't interested. And I actually really loved it because it was this, we're not just going after just any show that'll be like, yeah, of course, it's like, we're really trying to target shows that we felt like, man, this is really good. And we really want them to join. And they said, no, but maybe next time we'll get them, and I was excited by that. I thought that was great because I knew we were targeting the right shows at that point.
Well, Dylan, I love your optimism because I had the same thing and I was like, wow, that sucks. But okay, I don't find fault with your perspective on that. I just don't.
Yeah. Well, because I know it's always next time, right? So this isn't a lifetime decision. And so
I think what stunned me about, and I'm not to the same point, I'm not going to name because we're not out to name anybody or anybody, but the one that I reached out to was like, the response was, your core values don't line up with ours. And I'm like, you're a video game review podcast. Now, they specifically review a specific one. I'm not going to say because it'll give away the name of the show, but I'm like, what about our core values doesn't line up with the game that I know you review? Like, what are we doing wrong here that we don't line up with your core, And listen, everyone's got their perspective and they're entitled to feel that way. And I'm certainly not saying anything bad about them, but it really was like, that was the oddest answer that I could have gotten for a rejection. Like I would have understood, hey, we just don't feel like our show lines up with the rest of the shows on the network. That would have made more sense to me than our core values don't line up with yours. Like that was the thing that, like, yeah. So
you had a little bit different of an answer than I did, but
of course.
Either way, nothing is a lifetime answer. So we'll continue to do our thing. Well, Kendall, any burning questions from you? I know
I never got an answer to my first question about who the big spoon is.
I know. I said yes. I said me.
Oh, you said. Oh, I'm sorry. I missed it. Okay.
Yeah, he did.
Rico's definitely the big spoon.
Rico's the big spoon and quick with a phone number.
Yes. Yeah.
I usually give the phone number first, and then I get to be the big spoon. But
yeah.
No, I lure him in with impressions. That's what I do.
That's awesome.
Not me.
No, you absolutely hate my impressions, which
no,
is really
I want to. Now we need an impression.
We got Seth Rogen. Let's hear another one.
Give me your Joker. I think that's still honestly your best one.
Because it doesn't sound like me.
Well, it's so nice to see you all from the middle. The Joker's here. It's Halloween. If you can't accept it, well, then go fuck yourself.
Nice. Gorgeous.
I want to clarify because the me not liking Rico's impressions is really kind of like a bit at this point. I actually do. I do. Actually,
yeah, we get it. Yeah.
No, because I think sometimes I need to remind him that's a bit too.
Well, if there are times where I'm like, "Hey, you want to hear an impression?" He'll be like, "Sure." Like
sometimes you just get me when I'm not in a mood. It's not you, it's me. But anyway,
I think somehow we just played therapist for you two, and I'm glad that we had this moment. This is great.
Yeah, there you go.
You have no idea how accurate you fuckers are.
Yeah. So what we need is we're gonna release this episode, and then you guys need to listen to it, and I need both of you to write down 3 nice things about each other. And then and 3 things that you think is nice about the other person. You need 3 things that you think they could improve on. Mm-hmm. And then you need 3 things that you would like them to clarify for you.
Well, I'll tell you first and foremost. I'll tell you first and foremost, I think he is excellent at choosing a co-host.
Yeah, I think that's one of my worst qualities. No, I think that's one of the things you asked. I forget who asked earlier, and I apologize, but one of you asked like about the dynamic, and I think that's one thing that's really interesting is like we've gotten to this point now. There have been people that have listened to the show that have reached out to me and been like, you guys are friends, right? And I'm like, yes, absolutely. And it's not because they hear us struggling in the beginning. It's because they hear us now and they hear these kinds of things and they haven't listened to a bunch of them. They've heard one and they hear one where we're maybe, because there are ones where we're harsher to each other than others, but a lot of it's by design. I don't know about that by design, but it's certainly not serious either, well, there's been a handful of times where we've actually had to if you guys don't mind, there's another quick story going back to us developing the show is that early on, for I think like the first 15 or 20 episodes, if not more, almost every episode after we were done recording and hang up Skype, I'd end up calling him and be like, we're good, right? Like, because he's got like this resting bitch face and voice when and so like it's very we'd get off the recording and I'd be like, I don't know if I just pissed this dude off. And then like it took a while for me just to be like, oh, it's Rico.
There was one time without going into specifics because every single time he would call me, he's like, are we okay? Like, did I piss you off? I'm like, we're fine. I'm just Italian. Like, what are you talking about? But there was one time where he was like, we're okay, right? I'm like, no, I'm really annoyed. And it became like a whole thing. And it floored him for like, he was just like, I did not expect ever a yes.
Yeah, and especially with what floored him, and we're not going to get into it, but the thing that floored him was like the last thing I ever would have, or that actually annoyed him. I was like the last thing I expected to actually ever annoy him. Like if I had any indication at all, it would have never gone down. And we're good now.
But there was still that, like, he had an inkling. He must have known how he had an inkling because he was like, maybe I should reach out and see if he's okay. Like maybe and then I'm like, no. And he's like, what?
Yeah.
No, you guys are being therapeutic for Corey over there.
Okay.
Because you're good. He's feeling something very similar to CJ. The overthinking.
Oh yeah.
Interaction is over. What did I do wrong? Kind of thing.
I call it the what if syndrome, where you're just sitting there like, what if I said this wrong? What if he comes back at me? And like, I have created more arguments in my head between me and CJ than what actually exists, because like we'll have a disagreement, and that's the thing where I encourage every new podcaster to, like, if they're going to try someone, even with their best friend or their worst enemy, expect a fight. A fight will happen. You can't control it. And it's not about anything specific. It's just how to overcome those disagreements without letting anything get too messed up. That's the challenge. And CJ and I both had to learn the worst thing we do is we don't communicate. It's scary as hell to confront
as often
somebody.
as we talk, we don't communicate. Like that. I flat
out said to like my girlfriend, CJ and I had an argument, and it became like this unbridled, burning animosity between the both of us because we didn't communicate. And I said to Steph, and I'm like, this is so stupid. We talk to each other on a constant basis, and we can't talk about what actually is bothering us. If this was Star Wars, we would have been done 20 minutes ago. Like, you know, and I encourage anybody, especially if you're doing this like how he and I do this, which is via Skype. Like we never have recorded in a room together until he visited me.
Yeah.
So we've recorded in a room together twice is essentially really what it is.
Are you counting the thing in Red Bank?
Yes.
Okay. Yeah.
So if you have that long distance thing, you got to communicate. It's scary as hell, but you got to like, which is worse, laying up all night, 3 a.m, being like, I wonder if this is the end of my friendship over a disagreement, or I wonder why he said that way, or I wonder if he cares about me, or I wonder if he values me. I wonder if I value him. And do I even want to do this crap anymore? And what, it's just the what if syndrome is the worst. Screw the show. What if? The what if in your mind will kill a podcast very, very closely. Like to the point.
And very quickly, and I know we say that and it ends up being 30 minutes, but I promise this one is quick. Like the one core that Rico and I have agreed to through all of it is that if the show's going to destroy the friendship, the show has to end first.
Yeah.
Our friendship at this point, like it started off being a show and built into friendship, but now the friendship is more important to us than the show. Right. So if it ever gets to a point where if we continue to do the show, it's going to destroy the friendship, the show ends right then and there. We've already agreed to that. And I think that's important, especially if you're doing it with your friends or, you know, like Corey, you and Dylan are brothers. Like I can't imagine the show would ever destroy your sibling relationship, but in the off chance that it was getting to that point, this show should stop tomorrow. You know what I mean? And that's with no disrespect to you, Kendall. I'm just saying that, you know, like as an example, you know, like that's, and I feel the same way about Rico, you know, I call him my hetero life mate on the intro that you heard me do earlier, because that's, you know, it's a Kevin Smith gag, the PodAskew, the whole thing. But at this point, we really are like brothers. And it, you know, he does mean the world to me. And yes, there are days we fight like brothers. We really do. But, you know, at the end, I also love him like a brother. And if someone started messing with Rico, I'd be the first person to step up and be like, I don't care. I'm about to get my ass kicked. You better back the hell down.
Right.
You know, and that's more important to me at this point than any amount of listeners or revenue or anything to do with the show. I would gladly stop PodAskew tomorrow if it meant that Rico and I weren't going to lose our friendship. And I mean that. And that's just important.
But I feel like communication and like valuing relationships is like such a sweet note. I feel like we've got to end on that because it's such a beautiful note with how it started and you guys sassing with each other a little bit. I love it, man. That feels like kind of true to our show as well. If that's okay. So it's been a total pleasure having you guys on. Obviously for the listeners, please go find PodAskew everywhere that you can find podcasts. They're on YouTube as well. If you go to our YouTube channel, I thought you were. You're linked on our YouTube channel. So go everywhere that you can listen to podcasts. Certainly go check them out. Apple, Spotify, Good Pods, Podchaser, Spreaker, all the popular spots. Thank you guys. It's been a ton of fun.
Every Monday at 6 a.m. Just to let people
know. At 6 a.m. Go check them out every Monday morning on your commute into work. That's awesome.
And if you want to see me read to you guys, like I do a live show on Get Vocal, which was called Rico's Reads. I've now changed the name to Dog Eared, where I basically read currently the Harry Potter books to a live audience, all two of them, and it's me doing it's basically what if you liked what you unfortunately witnessed with me for the past hour and a half, 2 hours, how long we've been doing this crap, it's that, but me reading Harry Potter, and it's me doing like ad libs and impressions, and frequently I'll be like, why the hell did Harry do that crap? That was stupid as hell of him. And Hermione, how the hell did Hermione and Ron end up boning? This is ridiculous. Like, so yeah, it's on getvocal.com/PodAskew, and vocal is VOKL.
If we are plugging Dylan, do you mind if I throw one more thing out there? Or,
go for it. Yeah.
I also do a radio show twice a week. I do an internet radio show. It's literally radio. I play music, and I come in every 3 to 5 songs, and I talk about what we played and try to drop some knowledge if I can. And I do that every Thursday from 9 to midnight. I'm currently running a series on there called Alphabets and Pieces on Thursdays, where I've been starting at the top of my playlist with zeros, and I'm working my way down to the numbers, and I'm working my way down to the Z's by first name, which, yes, I know is not the right way to do it, and I don't care. And that's how we're doing on Thursdays. And then Saturdays are randomness. I do different things every Saturday, except every third Saturday of the month is a Saturday concert series where I play a live concert album. And we all basically attend a concert together since, there's been no live music for like 18 months. There's finally some concerts going around, but forever there wasn't. So I do that on radio-airwaves.co.uk. And I go by the name DJ Xanthus on there every Thursday, 9 to midnight, and Saturdays from 10 to midnight. So.
Well, you guys already have a lot of irons in the fire, but I also fully expect a relationship spin-off podcast, because everything you wrapped up this episode was beautiful. It's just, it applies to marriage. It applies to friendships. It's awesome. So let us know when the CJ Rico relationship podcast starts, and you just change the logo. You guys are back to back in the logo. I say you turn around and you hold hands. I think that would be beautiful.
No, spooning. We got to be spooning. I think that's the key. Yeah.
I think you are all wishing for something that's not going to happen.
And that's a great way to end. Thanks for tuning in.